I was never really a runner. The way I see running is a gift, especially when you have stage 4 cancer. I'm Anne. I'm running the Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America. I run for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to give people like me a chance to thrive in life, even with cancer.
Join Bank of America in helping Anne's cause. Give if you can at BofA.com/supportAnne. What would you like the power to do? References to charitable organizations is not an endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2025.
This episode is brought to you by Coffee Mate. After watching this season of the HBO's original series, The White Lotus, this is the tropical getaway I needed. One more pina colada, please.
Hey, you're not on mute.
Oh, I thought I was in paradise. Turns out it was my Coffee Mate. Coffee Mate pina colada and Thai iced coffee flavored creamers. Inspired by the newest season of HBO's original series, The White Lotus. For the love of coffee. Try now.
If anything I knew I didn't want to do after we sold this business was go back to the corporate world. I also knew we started a business from scratch. I knew I didn't want to do that. And that's where franchising popped up on the radar. I happened to be taking my daughter to Chicago, which is about 6 hours away. And when I was returning by myself, then I said, well, I'm going to find a podcast to listen to on the way. Went into my search engine, did FranCoaching 101, and there happened to be a podcast listed as Franchising 101.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to the latest edition of FranCoach's Franchising 101 podcast. I am Tim Parmeter, founder and CEO of FranCoach and your podcast host. Today, we are doing another installment of our segment that we call In Their Words, cleverly titled because it will be in their words of our former clients that have come through working with FranCoach that have now become franchise owners. We're going to hear directly from somebody today. We're going to talk all about their background, what led them to consider franchise ownership, how they navigated the process with FranCoach, as well as which franchise they chose and how has it gone so far. Today's guest is actually a former entrepreneur. Also worked in the corporate world, escaped that, started his own thing. Not only did he start it, he grew it and sold it, and then began looking for his next venture. He wanted to look at franchises this time around as it would give him a proven business model to work from the beginning rather than the years it takes to create and perfect one. Why not just do the franchise? So he tried to figure out how to do this, where to go, and found this little podcast called Franchising 101. Who knew? But before we get to his fantastic story, let's quickly remind you of who we are. And FranCoach is a national search firm dedicated to working with individuals like yourself interested in owning a business. Our number one goal is to properly educate you on franchise ownership to determine if this is the path for you. And if so, we're going to help you find your best franchise to own. We're partnered with over 600 of these suckers in about 70 different industries. There's never any fee for our service as well. So we're going to here to help you with that. And we're going to talk next to somebody we've already gone through this with and hear how it went. That's next. All right, that is a bit about us. And now joining us today, again, is a former podcast listener, podcast now guest, going full cycle. Somewhere in the middle of this, we went through a fun FranCoach journey, but I'm super excited. It's been one of my more enjoyable people to have had the opportunity to work with over the 10 years at FranCoach. But joining us today from lovely Columbus-ish, Ohio, Chad Ackerman. Chad, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it. Appreciate your tolerance of me through our journey that we've been on together, but it's been a fun ride. Hopefully for you as well.
It was. I mean, I did have a full head of hair when we first started this, so
I had no gray either. So
exactly. So, but no, been a blast and excited to share your story. We get a lot of people that come to us that are first time ever even thinking about owning a business. You had a little different journey from this. So I wanted, before we get into, there was life before FranCoach and now franchising for you. So give us a little bit of the Chad scoop.
Yeah. So I was a career corporate guy, W-2 guy. I grew up in the HR world. No booing, please. But was a human resources. My specific area of focus was sales compensation, which is kind of a niche area of HR. Got to be big companies. Small companies don't need a sales comp guy for sure. But really got to hone my skills over the years through 25 years plus being in different entities, banking, healthcare, Fortune 15 company for a majority of it, which was great. So we actually got to do some cutting edge stuff in that element of the industry, which was a lot of fun along the way. But at the end of the day, HR ends up being HR, and you kind of think, okay, is there something else I can do? As it worked out, I had stumbled into real estate investing along the way and met a group of people here in Columbus, Ohio. And there was a guy trying to start up a business related to passive investing in real estate, which I raised my hand quickly. Didn't really even honestly know what I was raising my hand for, but I just said, I'm in. I like the sound of this. I want to try it out. And we started what was meant to be a meetup group in March of 2020. Our first meeting was supposed to be March 18th, and the world shut down on March 15th. So we went on to Zoom like we're doing now, and that allowed us to invite people from all over the country then that we knew were interested in this space. And organically, we ended up growing that into a business that we started from scratch. We kind of backed into, we were accidental business owners then as this developed. And we were lucky enough to grow it for 4.5 years. And we got an offer to buy us out. Skip a little piece. I was able to leave my W-2 along the way in that journey with this business. And it gave me that first taste of the entrepreneurial feel. And that really triggered a lot with me to get away from the corporate world, go try something on my own, have the risks, have some of the freedoms that come with it, those kind of things that really got me excited. Grew it enough that we got attention for it, and somebody came and offered us money for it, and we said yes. And then it left me with what's next. So I've been trying to figure that out since.
So you had the great successful career working for people, then obviously your accidental entrepreneurial journey worked out okay, right? What was it that, like, I mean, you could have gone back to work for somebody, but I'm guessing at that point, that probably wasn't too enticing after years of working for yourself, right?
Yeah, if anything I knew I didn't want to do after we sold this business was go back to the corporate world. So that narrowed down the funnel a little bit, not drastically, but a little bit. It left a lot of open opportunities there. But I also knew we started a business from scratch. I knew I didn't want to do that. And that's where franchising popped up on the radar. A couple of my business partners had started or were in the middle of starting a franchise. And so I knew somewhat about it, but I didn't know a ton of information about it. And to share my journey, I happened to be taking my daughter to Chicago, which is about 6 hours away, for a co-op that she was going to be on for 4 months. And when I was returning by myself, then I said, well, I'm going to find a podcast to listen to on the way. Went into my search engine, did Frame Coaching 101, and there happened to be a podcast listed as Franchising 101. And I literally went back to your very first episode because I'm a believer. I know it's classic. It's classic. But I'm a believer in, when you started this, you were probably sharing those elements that you wanted a basic newbie to understand. And that's where I was, versus where you're, what you're communicating these days is more into the weeds, more veteran type material. So I wanted to go back to get the 101 stuff. And I liked how you were doing one-on-one conversations before you started interviewing people, or, giving us the details about it. It was extremely helpful for me. I power listened through at 2x speed. I listened to like 36 episodes on my way back from Chicago, and was like, okay, I'm going to have to give this Tim guy a call and talk to him about it. And I don't know, things took off from there for us for sure.
Well, good. No, and glad you did reach out, and it's been a fun journey. And no, I'm glad those first ones didn't scare you off, because they were a little rough.
Right. No, they were classic. They were good.
But no, it wasn't. I think it's the whole, we talked about this all the time with our clients and on the show. It's like the number one goal of us, what we do, is to help properly educate people about franchise ownership, because most people, they don't know nothing about nothing, or they think it's one thing when it's really all of these others. And so we got started kind of working through this, and got to the point where we, okay, here's, based on everything we talked about, here's some franchises to be able to kind of start that journey and exploring. And they're usually things that people, at least somewhere along the line, wouldn't have thought of, didn't know existed, got some preconceived notions. Can you kind of like think back to that kind of reveal, so to speak, and kind of what went through your mind at that point?
Yeah, no, that was I had listened to enough of your podcasts that I'd heard the spiel of it's always the one you don't like. It's always the one you don't think you're going to. So I went in trusting the process, to use your language as well, of like, and this is what I told friends and family. I'm like, I'm ponying up with Tim because of the fact he's been doing this so long. He has so many connections. He's got a system to understand what my needs are, what my likes are, and help align me to things better than I could do on my own. So I did want to trust the process. So I went into it with no preconceived notions. I tried not to get myself worked up over, it's got to be this. I knew I didn't want it to be food, and you'd vetted me on that. So, we knew some filtering going into it, but the three you gave me were very different from one another, which I was kind of happy about. Like, I wanted to have a spectrum of things to look at. One was definitely more in an industry that I feel like you teed me up for before you gave me the three as well, which was this business coaching idea, to be honest with you. One was business coaching, one was a manufacturing of custom-made closets, and one was a gym, an athletic gym, for a very specific approach to athletes, to help them run specifically faster, swim faster, throw farther, something along those lines. So very different elements to try to get an apples to apples kind of discussion going.
Right.
It was very difficult to do, but it was great to see that diversity and really kind of test me and what my desires were for getting into this. It really gave me the spectrum to review, I thought, out of it. So I was happy with the list you got me.
Well, and definitely appreciate the openness to that of like, and we do almost kind of like jokingly go, like, you might think I'm crazy with one of these. And sometimes people do. I don't know that you fully thought I was crazy with anything, but
right.
We usually, when we do that kind of at the end of the call, and you and I did this too, I don't know if you remember, but I'm like, okay, like I've given you 1/1000th of everything you're going to learn about these franchises, but rank them for me. It's kind of human nature. We're kind of doing that. And so many times it's the one that people like the least on that call that they end up owning. You are actually kind of in the minority. You ranked them exactly then how it ended up.
I couldn't remember what I ranked them. That's good to know.
Yeah. And so, but it was also interesting because it quickly flipped, and there was one that was kind of leading for a long time. It was like, and you even talked about this before we came on air, like all your friends are like, wait, what happened to the other one?
Right.
Because you were like chatty Cathy about the one, and then I was like,
and so other safety net,
right? And so, we'll talk a little bit about like that journey. And again, you were super open to kind of how we explore this, but we were really kind of trending one direction, but then some things kind of changed, and we ended up really, I guess, kind of back to where we started, so to speak.
Right. Well, I will say one of them was a little bit easier for me to vet off the list quickly, which kind of helped, because then I'm just down to studying 2 instead of 3, because it is a lot of work to try to keep everything in mind, have all the phone calls, dig into the details. But one of them I kept going back to your suggestion of this needs to be something you're passionate about, that you want to use the get out of bed test, that you're going to get fired up out of this. There's one that I'm like, I just don't see myself being fired up about this every day. I think when I got into it, it probably would pull me into that. But from the first blush, I'm like, I don't think this one's going to win me over. Let's just cut it loose, because it's just not going to be me, which was the gym scenario. So then I was down to, polar opposite companies to look at of, manufacturing closet space by having my own warehouse, having my own equipment, hiring employees, and business coaching, which was me on my own, no office needed, no brick and mortar. So very different entities. And it was, I think my biggest thing that I got pulled into as I was analyzing this is I had been used to investing in real estate, and I was treating these as investments to begin with, which they are.
Right.
But I love investing in things that have a return at some point in time, a sale that, we can get rid of this and it's going to be worth 2x over what I paid for it, or 5x, or whatever the magic number is. And the Closet Factory structure had that asset to it. It had that ability to build that I think I got engrossed with, that was really driving a lot of where my thought process went. Versus business coaching was on my own, and, there's nothing to sell at the end of this. But, it was then the battle back and forth of what do I really need? What do I really want out of this? I had to go make a list of what are my goals with this process to really then go back and measure, because I really felt good about both of them. I would have loved to get involved with either business. It was literally going through that pros and cons list kind of thing for both of them to help me get to a decision ultimately then.
Yeah. And you did we were very thorough and diligent throughout this. I mean, you and I even had one call where we kind of went through the pros and cons of both. And then I think one of the things when we got to the end was really going back to the beginning and kind of the foundation of all this is like, why are we looking at this? What are the things that you're trying to accomplish? And one for you and your significantly better half was the potential to have some flexibility to relocate at some point was really end up being one of the biggest things for you guys, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We have been talking about moving out of state for a couple years, and we were actually heading into that thought process here in the next year or so. But one of the hurricanes that's gone through the country lately wiped out most of the area that we were looking at going to. So it kind of paused that process, and then I'm like, well, okay, does that put a brick and mortar on the radar for us that we're going to be here for a longer period of time? And ultimately, I think we landed on no, we still think we have a pretty aggressive move schedule. So owning a brick and mortar here in Columbus, Ohio, it's manageable. You could hire staff, you could hire a GM to go in and take care of it, but it's going to have a different feel than being an owner occupier, if you will, of the business. The business coaching role had flexibility that there are coaches that are working that job from all over the world because it's a lot of Zoom. It's a lot of phone call conversation stuff. It doesn't have to be as face-to-face as what owning a warehouse would be like, for sure. So you're right. Yeah. That was probably the biggest pebble that caused the scale to tip that ultimately made the decision for me.
Yeah. And so we've kind of referenced business coaching. The name of the franchise you now own is... Hey everyone, I wanted to take a quick break from our podcast to tell you about our amazing friends at Entrepreneur. If you're looking to become a franchisee or simply learn more about business ownership, and guys, let's be honest, you're listening to the Franchising 101 podcast, so we know you have some interest in this. And I really encourage you to go to entrepreneur.com to check out all of their great content and resources. Seriously, Entrepreneur has everything, all the way from a bookstore to the best podcasts, webinars, and videos, plus information on upcoming events and the latest articles that seriously, they cover all aspects of franchising and business ownership. If you're having trouble deciding which franchise is right for you, start with Entrepreneur's renowned Franchise 500 ranking, which highlights the best franchises of 2022. For 45 years and counting now, Entrepreneur has been and continues to be the most widely recognized and respected authority in the franchise market. Digital and print subscriptions are available, so you never miss out on anything. So seriously, what are you waiting for? Go to entrepreneur.com right now and learn more.
Uh-oh. The last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day. And that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
Focal Point Coaching is the name of the company. Yes.
Focal Point Coaching. So
yes.
you've been a franchise owner for a few hours now, basically, right? But so totally putting you on the spot. Give us, Chad, the 30-second elevator pitch of what the heck is Focal Point?
Yeah, I'll give you a visual. This has been the thing that I've been impressed with the most. Their purpose statement is that they want to be the pebble on the pond in the respect of there's a ripple effect from the training that they try to do with small businesses, mid-sized businesses to make them better in the effect that they're going to have on the world, that their goal is to be the pebble in the center of that starts the ripples to help these companies become better companies and do better things for their communities, for their employees, for their owners. That's our goal, is to help influence small businesses that maybe have struggles to help coach them along to get them into a better place, which the main reason that pulls through to me with the business that we had started and we're running from scratch, we needed that coach. I identified we needed that coach and we didn't know where to find it. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know what it was called.
Right.
Now I love the idea that maybe I can go work with some of those same kind of businesses and help them through what we didn't know how to find the help for, and get them to a place where we were. We got lucky and backed into a deal and got to sell. Yeah. We accidentally started a business. We accidentally got to sell it too. But I'm hoping, maybe I can get involved with some small businesses and help them out proactively instead of retroactively.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's most people, like small business, they don't know there is something like this out there for them. And I always like the thing with Focal Point, they have a great distinction of the difference between a consultant and a coach, right? Yeah. The consultant goes in, I'm going to tell you what to do, give me my money, and I'm out of here. Right. And if it doesn't work, well, I told you what to do. You just didn't do it. But the coach is there literally like working with them almost like, not really every single day, but these are very, very long-term relationships with them. Yeah. It's like it's not the football consultant that goes in on Thursday at practice. All right, boys, this is what you need to do. And then hope it works out. The coach is there throughout all of this. And I know that really resonated with you too, about being able to connect and make a difference and kind of build those long-term relationships. And you're going to really be able to do that with Focal Point.
Absolutely. No, the relationship side of this was definitely a big selling point to me of being involved. I don't want to do the dance. And I've worked with many outside consultants in my corporate world through the years, and some worked, some didn't. The ones that worked, I wish we could have kept in, and that's to me, the perk of this coaching side of things is it's meant to be alongside with the business for a period of time, depending on what the business needs. There's so many things that can be managed, done better, whatever the case is with a business, but that relationship can go on for years, potentially, if it's all working out well. And I think that's awesome. I think it's great to get involved and help see something grow and be able to help them get to whatever their next phases are, several of them. So that was a big selling point for sure.
Yeah. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be like, oh, this business is really, really struggling. Let's go in and help them. Well, yes, it's that, but sometimes, hey, it's good, but it can always get, it's still good to great, right? How do we get through this? And you've been on that side as a startup and as a business owner. And frankly, I go through this with FranCoach too. It's like, you're in it, no matter how much you say you're going to work on the business. Well, that's a bunch of crap. It's yours. You're in it. Right. Yeah. And so you're going to see things differently. And it's like somebody's going to suggest something. Yeah. It's always the, but you don't and to now really be able to kind of have that again, I think this is where you're going to do fantastic at this, because you're probably going to find a very polite way to slap somebody around when they say, but, right. And just be able to kind of figure out what those needs are and be able to help them. I know one of the things you talked about with Focal Point also for you, not just the what, but the people within the organization, and whether it was other owners or their leadership team or all of that. Talk about how that kind of impacted this ultimately being the right thing for you.
Yeah, no, that was great. The culture that I started to see, that was very important to me. I wanted to not be a number, be a cog in a system. I wanted to be a part of a community, if you will. That's what we were all about in the business that I developed, that we sold. I wanted to still feel that feel going into it. And I was a little leery of Focal Point because there were 300 some coaches worldwide, but they have really set up, like there's a Team Ohio that I'll be a part of, that there are 6 coaches in or so right now. So there are elements that you get into much smaller entities that are really helping coach each other along. But there's also this communal feel of, hey, I need an NDA. Has anybody ever created one? And the share of information sounds like it's fantastic to help walk through. Or, hey, I'm having a scenario with this client. Has anybody stumbled on this? And there's 3 or 4 recommendations that come through to you. So that community feel, it's ringing through. I'm in the middle of training right now, and we're in a cohort of 16 of us coaches that are just starting. And we'll be together for a year. So I'm going to have 16 best friends after, this is all said and done, let alone the Ohio group, let alone people that are focused on HR businesses, which will be my focus as well going into this. So there are all these subsets that really make my experience much more intimate than just being part of a big entity kind of thing. So I'm excited about it. It looks like there's a really good runway there.
Nice. Excellent. No, and it's one of the things that we always talk about is one of the biggest reasons why people find their match. It's rarely the of it. But again, the people, it's so incredibly important, that you're going to talk to every single day in your business, that you're around within the franchise, that you trust them. You talked about their, kind of their mission, vision. You're not the first one of our clients that's literally talked about kind of Focal Point's, kind of vision and mission, how that aligned with them, how it resonated with them. So it makes you feel, and I'm assuming you kind of feel this and do this now, is like kind of feel like you're in the right room with people that are going to be there to support you, train you. I know they've got a very collaborative environment, but that, again, and I know you're going to fit in really well with that, but that's again, one of the biggest things for you right at the end, correct?
Yeah, no, as we started orientation and they went through some of the materials already, I commented to the lady that was running the show for us. I'm like, I'm impressed by the details and the effort that has gone into building these materials. It's not earth shattering, but you've documented it. The simple act of writing some of this stuff down is so impactful sometimes, and you've done it. Their value statements, they have 8 different value statements that I'm like, that's fantastic. Anybody can glean into some of that, but things like profitability are one. So it's like, at the end of the day, that's what we're in business for.
Right.
So I'm like, well, good. We aren't skimming over the things that are important or pretending they aren't there. But beyond that, just the training, the documentation that's available to help us coach is a wealth of information that is, from what I have been able to digest so far, is streamed down to very easy to use, very easy to digest as well, process that I think they've done a wonderful job with what they've built. Again, it's not rocket science. Sometimes it's very kind of should be common sense kind of things.
Right.
But sometimes you need somebody to say it to you, a coach to say it to you, just give you permission to do the thing that you're supposed to do, or say the basic thing that you should do, but you hear from somebody else, it's like, okay, yeah, I really need to implement this, or I really need to do this one thing. So
yeah. And even for you now as a Focal Point owner, you're going to have essentially your Focal Point coach coaching you on your Focal Point business. So there's certainly kind of the they walk the walk, talk the talk, so to speak. So because I'm quite sure, and maybe early and often, you're going to get yourself into the weeds running your own Focal Point business, right? So you've got the people and the support to kind of get you out of there.
Yeah.
So
they called out that the training that we're going to go through, the material they're using is the exact same material we would use on a business as a coach. But I'm like, well, that's awesome that I can absorb it my own way and me personally running my own Focal Point business, but then I can see it through their lens of like, this is what I'm going to share to a business owner. how are they going to read this? What do I need to kind of emphasize as I go through it? I think it's a great way to teach us and get us trained and up to speed and ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I can, if they can get through my thick head anyway, there's only so much they can do.
But eventually it'll seep through.
Well,
so
five times I need to 5 times. So
I have no doubt they'll beat it into you at some point. But so and you're just getting started, right? We talked off air, like you're just really kind of getting launched into this, and the fire hose is about to turn on with all the information. And so as you kind of went through this journey with vetting franchises, was there anything in particular that kind of maybe surprised you, or you didn't know about franchising, or what this might be like?
That's a great question. The documentation of it, I wasn't prepared for. Just get a 270 page FDD, that was a bit to get into, but I guess the openness, I would say anybody that's interested in looking at this, trust the process. When you get to the validation part where you're talking to other owners, I was a bit surprised at how open a lot of them were. There was one guy with Closet Factory that he was like, come to my shop. I'll walk you through my books. I'll show you every line of my books so you can get a feel. I'm like, okay, I don't know that I need that detail, but it was good. But that opened us. Everybody was bought in. Everybody was very excited about the business, that kind of thing. The companies went through to get me more names when I asked for more names. My thing was they gave me a lot of veterans to talk to when I started in both instances, which was great. I like to see where I could get things, but I asked in both cases, give me some newbie, give me somebody that's only been doing it for a year, because they're experienced or have experienced what I'm going to go through more directly. I want to hear from them and what lessons learned do they have. And those were probably more impactful to me to make my decision than the veterans. Yeah. Both were very valuable, but I learned some things from the newbies that were very helpful, that I highly encourage people to ask for that if they don't receive it when they're going through a franchise vetting process.
Yeah. And most franchises are like, I think there's a myth. One of the many is, when we get to that point, the franchise, yes, they have 300 owners, but they only want you to talk to these 3 because the other 297 suck and hate it. Right. Might there possibly be a couple brands out there like that? Yes. Are they ones we're working with? No, but both of these 2 in particular are just super open of like, what do you need? What do you need? Right. Yeah. And if it's if it's geography related, and you're right, there's always that balance of, you want to talk to somebody newer, they're feeling the pain you're about to jump into, right? The one that's been doing it for 20 years is awesome because you can see what the business can become. Yes. But that's like, me telling my 11-year-old, back in my day, I walked uphill in the snow both ways to school. I'm like, good. Really, Dad? Did you do that? But it does. So you were able to kind of get that. And I think that was fantastic. And just the openness you kind of rolled through all this was like textbook, man. So I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So,
what I also knew was leaning on you and being transparent with you. You're the one that's been through this bunch. You're the one with the experience on it. Keeping anything from you that was important to me wasn't going to help me out. So I laid down on the couch and I walked through all my problems with you, and you did a nice job of helping me through that, to walk me off the ledge a time or two, maybe, as I was going through this, but it was good. I thought it was a good partnership all the way through. I really appreciate it.
Well, no, good. Because like if people don't get to the ledge at some point during this journey, or don't have that, like, where's the paper bag, right? Like it's going to happen. I think a little easier for you because you've made the ultimate leap into, starting something completely from scratch and leaving your job and jumping in and trying to create it. That's really, really hard. Franchises, not easy, but it's easier than that. But you're still going to have those moments where, gosh, is this the right thing? Am I missing anything? And so all of that, like, sometimes it's just a matter of like, yes, that's, I don't want to say normal. I don't like saying the word normal, but that's typical. Right. That's common, right? Like, sometimes it's about time you got to this point.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's like 12 stages of owning a franchise, probably, right, that you go through. So I think I hit all 12 of them, probably.
That'll be the next book, right? The 12 stages of the journey. So grief. There's happiness.
I'll co-write
there's
that with you if you want.
Right.
We can partner up on that.
I'm scared to death. What the heck have I just done? So that one that's book 3. That comes a little bit later. Once you're started, is you'll be there in a few months. What have I done? But I do believe, and you were very good about this, is like, why are we looking at this in the first place? Right. And when you can kind of come back to like your things that you want, because it really is always that get out of bed test. Like you're the one that's got to get your butt up every day and go do this.
I think that's probably the biggest piece of advice I ever gave anybody in my former business that we started up. Was real estate investing. I always boil back to go write your goals down. What are you expecting to do? There's too many shiny objects out there to not be laser focused on what you want to do. It takes some of the emotion out of it. And then I didn't do a great job of listening to my own advice until later in the process with franchises, but it works in the franchises too. The more you can define what you're really after, it trims down that funnel to be much fewer shiny objects to focus on. It does take some of the emotion out of it, and you can kind of go back and gut check yourself on it. Ultimately, I got to that point, and that's what helped me get over the ledge. But that's, I think, the biggest piece of advice I could give anybody that's looking at a franchise right now too, is take the time and really define what you're looking for, because it'll help out immensely.
Yeah. And sometimes that kind of changes throughout the journey we go through, because there are times that, like, people, you may think one thing, and as you get into it more, you realize, oh, that really wasn't what I want. I want this. Yeah, and you had a few years of detox from the corporate world, but when people are like, that's all they've ever done, and you get brainwashed into and kind of pigeonholed into, well, I'm in this industry and I do this, therefore it's all I can do.
Right.
No, it's not.
Exactly.
So, and you completely stole the thunder from the last question I always ask people is like, all right, so what, they're baller boy, what you've gone through this, what's your advice for people? And you already threw that out there. So I don't have a last question now. So,
perfect.
The most
anticlimactic podcast you've had yet. You're welcome.
Indeed. But no, I seriously, I can't thank you enough for one. It's been a pleasure to get to know you. And I was looking at my calendar for next week, and I'm like, gosh, I have some openness. What's wrong? Oh, wait, I don't have to talk chat anymore. So there went like 6-7 hours of my week.
Yeah, I ruined everything. I ruined everything by buying a franchise. My apologies.
Yeah, no, it's quite all right. But no, thank you so much for coming on today. And on the off chance there's a small business owner out there that's like, maybe I want a franchise, but maybe I just need somebody to help coach me. Give Chad a couple weeks, and he will. Yeah. He'll be your guy for this. But Chad, thank you so much for coming on today to talk to us.
Absolutely. No. And I want to just thank you for going through the process. As you know, I know another franchise broker, and I have really enjoyed our journey because I know there's different types out there, but we clicked really well together, I think, as we went through the process. And I appreciate all your help and the keeping it lighthearted. That definitely helped because I was stressing out and everything else. So it was a great process. Highly promote Tim to, help you guys out with this going through this vetting process if you want. So it was a great journey. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. And the check's in the mail for the plug. So I appreciate it. So awesome. Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Chad Ackerman, now new Focal Point business coach, franchise owner, for joining us today on the podcast. And for all of our loyal listeners who tune in week over week, we hope that all of these episodes will help enlighten you in some way as to the amazing possibilities that can be achieved as a franchise owner. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to us, Spotify, follow us wherever you listen to these things, as well as all the social media aspects, outlets. If you want to chat, FranCoach.net. It's our main website. Also, franchising101podcast.net. Either way, it's going to get you to our FranCoach team. There's never any fee for our service to help you out. So we're here for that. Also, don't forget, every Friday night, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, is our TV show called The Franchising 360 Show with myself and Danielle Wright, talking franchise stuff, just, on TV. So check it out. In the meantime, reach out to our team, FranCoach.net. Let us help you create your better tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.